Ever since I found out Harriet Tubman is not a real person, it fucked me up. Not gonna lie.
I'm about to show y'all some very real records involving Harriet Tubman.
Hey,
Because her real name
Hendo
is
checking in, coming out with another video. And today we're gonna look at Black history you may not know. We're gonna go ahead and look at that. We're gonna walk through it. We got a few clips. I'm gonna start this as a series, and I'm gonna do this a lot because I think it's important that we look at our history, we re-examine our history through different lenses, not through what they have taught us, not through what they put in those history books, because we know that that's all falsified. Not all of it's falsified, but a lot of it is fudged, a lot of it is whitewashed, a lot of it is just the part they want to tell you because, you know, they have their own ulterior motives, you know what I mean? And it only makes sense. So, yeah, I'm gonna start this series of just showing history, Black history that you may not know, just a couple clips. We try to keep it quick, under 20 minutes, so you guys can see. I'm gonna try to get some that's under 10 minutes, just a few clips, you know what I mean? So you guys, we can run through these and see different history that we don't know about. Also, I want to talk about, I'm gonna also try to put some history from other countries in here and Black people from everywhere. That's why it's called Black history you may not know, because yeah, we have a lot of rich Black American history and culture here. But I think the problem in the diaspora as a whole is that we don't understand a lot of people's history. And a lot of our history, well, a lot of what they say our history is was put into movies. And it's funny that you can look at it now and see why they beat that shit over the head, the whole slave and all that. Just beat it over the head, because that's what they even portrayed to the world what we were. They used it as a tool of propaganda against us, and it's so crazy. But yeah, we don't know, just they don't truly know our history, and we don't truly know anybody else's history. You know what I mean? Like, so I want to start bridging that gap and showing each other's history so we can have a more understanding of what the diaspora has went through as a whole and what we need to do to come together. I'm not saying that we're going to have unity or anything like that, but at least we can start making steps towards mending bonds and making it better. Let's get into the video.
Look, I know sometimes I feel like God don't be around, but don't let that get you down. It get better when you smile. I know sometimes it get easier to frown, but don't let the struggle get you down. It get better when you smile.
Legitness.
All black things.
No way, sorry Black people. White people don't know that Memorial Day was for the slaves. Now all the big white people go to Applebee's. It was for the ones in unmarked graves. There's a memorial for the slaves that were freed, but Americans made it for the white people now, just like country, blues, and weed. But we still keep them in prison for that. That's our Memorial Day fee. The South did it, you crazy sons of bitches. You never cared about your kids. You cared more about keeping slaves. You say it in your manuscripts. You were bad parents. Now your kids are sons of bitches. That's a fact. 40% of slave owners were white women. You cared more about keeping slaves because you wanted the proof of what you did. They were trying to open their mouths. That's why you love the Second Amendment. They weren't allowed to have guns, silly, either. You used to use them on the kids. I swear to God, you used to use them on the women. You used them on the innocent. In Charleston in 1860.
And this is why I say they whitewash history, bro, because I never knew none of that about Memorial Day. Maybe it's just me not looking, but I damn sure didn't learn about that in school. I know that for a fact. You let me know if you learned that in school, that it was for the slaves, that the whole slave, they killed 200 slaves or something and put them in unmarked graves. And that was the first memorial that was ever held, was for the slaves, by Black people. Is that what you're telling me? This is what I'm saying, bro. They've done such a thorough job in whitewashing history that damn near everything they do is ours. And it's a lot of shit that they do that they took from us that we don't even know about. It's a lot of our history they snatched that we don't even know about, you know what I mean? And they just tell us it's them, and we believe it, you know what I mean? It's crazy. It really is. It's sick. But let's get back into the video.
On the innocent. In Charleston in 1865 at a former racetrack, the Southern soldiers killed 257 prisoners and buried them in unmarked graves. 3,000 children marched around the track singing John Brown's Body, followed by 7,000 adults and pastors from churches all around. They need new soldiers for the economy. We use soldiers in economic recessions to take land. We're doing it in Palestine now. Land grab wars are the only way we can actually make money since we don't make anything. But back in 1865, the freed slaves made a grave, reburied the people, and made up the term Memorial Day. They sung the Star-Spangled Banner, America the Beautiful, and we'll rally around the flag. Are y'all hearing me? At a mass grave, freed slaves were singing the songs white people act out today. Isn't that disturbing? They're actually American. We're not. A white person said, by the end, the gravesite looked like one mass of flowers, and a breeze wafted sweet perfumes as they cried out in tears of joy, knowing their families were given a proper burial place. That chokes me up every time. I don't know if white people have ever done anything so beautiful. Sorry. White people immediately suppressed their ability to celebrate this. Even to this day, it took less than 20 years for people to make it their own. You know, it's illegal for black people to remember.
And that's what I mean, y'all, man. Like 20 years, it took them 20 years to co-opt that whole fucking memorial that we started and turn it into Memorial Day and make it theirs and make us forget that it was ever a thing of ours, you know what I mean? Or a thing that we started. And it's not a global, I mean, like a nationwide thing. That's maybe why we didn't hold on to it. They probably killed all the people who were there who helped do that memorial, you know what I mean? So that's probably why. But at the same time, it's everything. It's everything. They take from different, like you can see it today with the music and the style and everything. They take from all of the different black regions around America, all of our tribes around America, our regional tribes. They just steal our shit. Let's get back into the video.
People to remember. All of the trauma we are still causing them is because if they remember, then we have to remember. We don't want to remember. After 20 years, the Southern soldiers wanted it too, and they made Memorial Day basically illegal for black people in the South. It was originally called Freed Slaves Memorial Day, but my kind is ultra violent. That's our bad again. You know, so how dare any white person in the South celebrate anything today? Y'all out of your damn racist minds? God damn it! When are we gonna get our shit together? When are we going to take accountability? Are we just going to celebrate everything that they make? Literally? All the music, all the art, all the Memorial Days? Oh, we are so cooked.
In South Suburban history, boy, I bet you ain't know that it was a black man who was the richest black man at the time in America during the Jim Crow era, and he was up in the South Suburbs.
Samuel B. Fuller was born in Ouachita County, Louisiana in 1895. His family moved to Memphis and then to Chicago, where he arrived in the 1920s as part of the Great Migration, the continuous movement of black Southerners toward the industrial North. 1935, with $25, he founded Fuller Products Company and began selling soaps and personal care products door to door in Chicago. The manufacturing of those products required facilities, and Fuller invested in production capacity that gave him control over the supply chain rather than dependence on external manufacturers whose priorities might not align with his distribution model. By the late 1940s, Fuller Products had grown into a substantial operation. Products sold under brand names with established white consumer followings was available for acquisition. Fuller bought it. The white world did not know a black man owned their favorite brands. He kept it secret to keep the profits. The acquisition strategy Fuller applied to Boyer was analytically precise and operationally sophisticated. He maintained the white management team in their positions. He kept the company's existing brand names and did not associate the Fuller name with the acquired products. The white customers who had been buying Boyer products continued buying them, unaware that the ownership had changed because nothing in their experience of the brands had changed. Fuller was a proponent
And that's
of
what I'm saying, y'all. It's like, why do we have a movie on Boys in the Hood, but we don't have a movie on this guy? Why is there a movie on The Wolf of Wall Street? I love the movie The Wolf of Wall Street, but why is there a movie on The Wolf of Wall Street, but not this guy? You know what I mean? Why is there a movie on American Gangster or Snowfall or all these shows about all this bullshit, but we don't talk about the brilliant black people in history? We don't keep their name alive. Like, I've never heard of this guy. And he was so fucking smart the way he was doing his business, you know what I mean? Coming through, not putting his name on the products, not trying to take over. He's like, yeah, I'm gonna show you white motherfuckers. White people probably, he walking down the street, they're like, nigger, what are you doing? He see him with a bag in their hand with his products in it. He's like, nothing, I'm not doing nothing. You keep walking, good white man. I'm spending your money that you done, you know what I mean? Fly shit. Like, why we don't get movies on people like this? Why are we getting movies on bullshit ass characters? You know what I mean? But I know why. It's that propaganda from around the world. But let's get back into the video.
Fuller was a proponent of economic self-reliance and individual enterprise as the primary mechanisms for black advancement, and he expressed skepticism about the protest strategies of the civil rights movement in terms that placed him at odds with the mainstream of black political thought in the 1960s. His public statements on these matters generated hostility from civil rights organizations and activists who viewed his emphasis on business development as either a distraction from the political fight or, in the more uncharitable interpretation, as an accommodation to white power that served his commercial interests.
See, and I feel like, I don't know if that's true. I'm gonna have to look into a story a little more. I promise you I'll look into a story and release a video on it. We'll go deeper down this rabbit hole. But just based off what I heard, we get those type of black people that come into that are born into our community, and as long as the white man is willing to give them a piece of the pie, or if it's gonna benefit them, like a lot of bourgeois, as Malcolm would say, black niggas that be you know, they vote Republican because they gonna get the tax breaks type shit. You know what I mean? That's how I feel about a lot of these rappers and shit. Like they vote. It's not because they think the white people love them or they love the white people. It's because it's gonna benefit them in the long run. You know what I mean? Which is I despise that more than just being a fucking coon. You know what I mean? Like ugh. But let's keep going.
Today I'm going to destroy one of the biggest lies ever told to black children about slavery. I was told that the great Abraham Lincoln and the Northerners decided out of the kindness of their heart that slavery was wrong and needed to end to save humanity. This is a lie. The truth is, a black man named Nat Turner is the real reason why we were freed. Black people freed themselves. What a revelation this was to learn. And I learned it alone in a library, not in a classroom. So who is Nat Turner? What did he do? And what did they do to him? And how did that change everything? Let's get into it. On the evening of August 21st to the 22nd, 1831, an enslaved preacher named Nat Turner launched the most deadliest revolt in U.S. history. Over the course of the day in Southampton County, Turner and other enslaved black people unalived over 60 white slave owners. Hundreds of federal troops and thousands of militiamen got together to stop the uprising. They found several participants except for Turner, and a manhunt began. He was hiding only miles away from the Travis farm where the rebellion began for 2 months. And then on October 30th in 1831, Benjamin Phipps came upon Turner, according to the Richmond newspaper. And Phipps raised his gun and Turner emerged from the foxhole and surrendered. Dozens stood trial for their participation in the rebellion. More than 50 convicted and sentenced to death by the collection of 20 judges who were all slaveholders. In addition, revenge-minded white mobs lynched blacks who played no part in the uprising. Historians have estimated that mobs unalived between 100 and 200 enslaved people who had nothing to do with it. Since it was getting out of hand, slaveholders that wished to protect their enslaved property after the revolt, they had to put an order out prohibiting the killing of the enslaved in an attempt to rein in the vigilantes. After Turner's arrest, he was taken to Southampton County, a small town called Jerusalem, present-day Cortland, Virginia. 6 days after his capture, he stood trial and was convicted of conspiring to rebel and making insurrection. He was sentenced to death, and Turner was hung from a tree, November 11th, 1831. Trigger warning for what they did to his body. His body was given over to the surgeons for dissection. He was skinned to supply souvenirs such as purses, and his flesh made into grease, and his bones divided as trophies to be handed down as heirlooms. His head was cut off and given to one of the physicians as a souvenir. Even though Turner and his followers had been stopped, panic spread across the region. In the days following the attack, 3,000 militiamen and vigilantes unalived more than 100 to 200 suspected rebels. In a letter written a month later from a man in North Carolina, this is what he said as it pertained to the rebellion. The insurrection of the blacks have made great disturbance here. Every man is armed with a gun by his bed nights. And in the field at work, a great many of the blacks have been shot, their heads taken off, stuck on poles at the forks of roads. Some been hung, some awaiting trial in several counties, 6 in this county. I expect to see them stretch their trial next week. There is no danger of their rising up again here. The response to Nat Turner's rebellion highlighted a key difference between the North and South's views on slavery. Both sides were terrified. The Southern response was different from the North's response. In the aftermath of the rebellion, the Southern states, especially Virginia, enacted stricter laws regarding enslaved people. These laws included prohibiting the education of enslaved people and restricting their movements. The fear of further revolts led to the increase of force used to control the enslaved people. Fears about slave uprisings and many white Southerners reacted by becoming even more brutal and staunchly pro-slavery. They believed that the only way to maintain order and prevent further revolts was to uphold slavery and restrict any actions that may lead to it being abolished. The rebellion, in their view, reinforced the necessity of slavery for the stability of their society and, most importantly, their economy. The Northern response was different. Their fear led them towards self-preservation. For abolitionists in the North, Nat Turner's rebellion was seen as a dramatic example of the brutal realities of slavery and further evidence that slavery needed to be abolished for the sake of their own white survival. Abolitionists argued that the existence of such violence was a direct result of the system of slavery. At the same time, some Northern critics of the rebellion feared its violence and potential to provoke greater conflict. While they opposed slavery, some believed that violent uprisings like Nat Turner's could lead to greater violence in the future and undermine the moral cause of abolitionism. They were afraid that black free people would retaliate, would seek revenge even after being freed. Abolitionists in the North, they advocated for the immediate emancipation of enslaved people and the abolition of slavery across the United States. For them, the rebellion served as a stark reminder of the dangers of maintaining slavery. Southern defenders of slavery defended slavery as vital to their economy and social order. They viewed the rebellion as proof that slaves needed to be controlled through even more strict measures. This entrenched them in their pro-slavery beliefs, leading to laws that they felt would protect the system of slavery. They also at this point developed slave patrols, which is what we now know to be how police departments started out. The debate over slavery had been simmering for decades, but Nat Turner's rebellion intensified fears on both sides. This growing divide was further exacerbated by a series of political events in the decades that followed, including the Fugitive Slave Act of 1850. This law required that escaped slaves be returned to their owners, increasing tensions between the North and South, because Harriet Tubman was out there getting slaves out, building the Underground Railroad. Then there was the Kansas-Nebraska Act of 1854. This law allowed for the possibility of slavery to spread into new territories, leading to violence in Kansas and further polarization. Then you have the Dred Scott decision in 1857. The Supreme Court ruled that African Americans could not be citizens and that Congress had no authority to restrict slavery in the territories, further inflaming tensions. Then there was John Brown's raid in 1859, another violent uprising, this time led by abolitionist John Brown, highlighted the possibility of violent conflict over slavery. These events, combined with the fear and the distrust that had been building between the North and the South for years, ultimately led to the outbreak of the Civil War in 1861. So, to recap, Nat Turner's rebellion played a crucial role in exacerbating the sectional tensions between the North and the South. While both sides feared slave uprisings, their responses to those fears were drastically different. The South responded by becoming more defensive of slavery, while the North increasingly saw the need to abolish the institution altogether. These differing views and the increasing violence surrounding the issue of slavery ultimately contributed to the Civil War, thus proving that Black people did in fact save themselves, which proves that we can save ourselves again. This is the power of knowing your history. This video was brought to you by the Black Revolutionary Collective, an organization focused on building both economic and political power for all Black people in the African diaspora. As always, I love you, Black man. I love you, Black woman. Knowledge is power. Power to the people.
And that's why one of the biggest conspiracies to me, or theories that I got, is that the numbers don't make sense. Our population numbers don't make sense to me. They don't make sense at all. And one of the things that's why I feel like when she's saying that, like, the North got scared, like, you don't want no beef with them. Like, let them people go, for we have real problems on this land. And the South was like, fuck that. We need to double down. Make the chains tighter. You know what I mean? Fuck it. Let's go. We ain't giving them up. That's what their whole beef, that wasn't even their beef. It was really over economy. It was really over economics. But that's that argument that they were having about slavery. So it's really because, and that's where my theory comes in, is like, why? If there was only like a 600,000 at this time, tops, maybe 500,000. I mean like a million, maybe a million, 1.5 million, maybe Black people here. and there was like double, triple that of white people, then what the fuck are you scared of? It just doesn't make sense to me. That the numbers don't add up. Even today, the numbers don't add up. If you do the math with these cities, it's like population, like I think that's one of the biggest lies told for real to keep us in the trap. But I have no proof and no evidence. I will be diving into this theory later on my channel. But I have no proof and no evidence, so I'm not saying that like it's fact. But like I said, it's a theory that I got. It's a theory that I got. I looked at it a little bit and it makes sense, but we're gonna dive into it deeper. Let's get back into the video.
Not all African Americans came from Africa. We were a global melanated planet, which means we were absolutely everywhere. Melanated people were not only on the continent of Africa, we were everywhere. But part of the imprisoning of our consciousness has come from making us feel like we were only in some parts, and Europe belonged to the Mzungus, and Asia belonged to the Asians, and Africa belonged to the Africans. It's a global invasion, beloveds. We were everywhere. And so there are those African American brothers and sisters, I'm sorry I keep calling you African American, Native American, who just know, they feel such a connection to that land. But they created this narrative like everyone was a slave, and that's how they were able to disenfranchise the few that weren't taken out in the invasion and kind of box them up in, you know, with the slaves. Move out of the cities, beloveds, but get yourself a piece of land and affect the destiny of the land and the nation. It makes you a custodian, and this is something we've never been told. And this is why Babylon has gone and tried to buy land all over the world. So once you have the land, beloveds.
This is where I come back to whitewashing history. They whitewash history, bro. So stop listening to them. Anybody that's saying, well, we know through history, what we know through science. No, the fuck you don't know. They don't know. They're lying. They're lying, bro. I wish I can beat that through my people's head. They're lying. We were a global society before that. So anybody saying that they were on any land before any black person, you're lying. You're a fucking lie. You might come from the black people who were on that land before. You might be those black people who got a little lighter. But if you look from Australia, there's a video on my channel right now. I'm going to put the thumbnail right here. There's a video on my channel right motherfucking now. Go look it up, bro. Go watch that video. It shows black people in Australia. It shows black people in the Philippines. It shows black people in India. Not the Indians and how dark they are. It shows that black, dark-skinned tribes still in India today that they most likely descend from. They try to say they don't. The Asians are the only one who really say, yeah, we descend from them. And I don't even know if I believe them. They might be lying. They might not even descend from them. I don't know where all these white people came from. But we're missing that part of history. And that's the problem. They don't want to tell you that part. So what we need to do is understand that when people say, oh, we were Hebrews or we were on this land first, I don't look at it as you're not Indian or you're not Native American or where's your heritage or where's your proof. That is totally valid to me. No questions asked, because yes, we were on every continent first. So to say there was no black people here when Christopher Columbus landed is a lie. To say that Native American people who we know came from China, who we know China says they came from over there, Russia, China, Siberia, who we know came from over there. And we know those people say, Chinese people and those people over there say they came from a darker skinned civilization. So how they come from a darker skinned civilization over here? It's a lie. They tell us that this land, like, you can't see why. They have a perfect motive. They want to take the land. They want to claim rights. Like even England, Europe, that is not, there was black kings and queens first. You have to look into this shit. You have to look into it. I know you probably don't believe me. Just look into it yourself, please. Please. Stop believing these people. So when people say I'm a Hebrew Israelite, I base it off of the fact that, yeah, we were the original people on the earth. So, I mean, it's possible. That makes sense. I don't know. I don't subscribe to Christianity, so I wouldn't know. Video on that coming today, matter of fact. But I wouldn't subscribe on Christianity to Christianity. I haven't completely read through the Bible, so I couldn't really say, you know what I mean? But I like the theory. It makes sense to me. It's a lot of things about it that make sense. But I'm not looking at it as a standpoint of, I'm not no Christian, so I could never be Hebrew Israelite. I'm looking at it as a standing of historical. So historically, we were the first people on this land. So you could have a claim to that. Now, I mean, it makes sense. When people say they're Native Americans, it makes sense. Historically, we were the first people on this land. So it makes sense that there would be black Native Americans here. And if you're finding any type of proof to it, I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, we were all slaves. Some people did come over here during this transatlantic slave trade. That's what I'm saying. The whole diaspora is arguing over bullshit when multiple things can be true at the same time. Multiple things can be true at the same time. This is not what I'm saying happened, but I'm saying to make multiple things true at the same time. There were black people on this land, Native Americans. They did travel out. They did see things. They did do things. There were also Moors out there who were in the Europe area and in the Africa area who came over to the Americas and was trading with the black people over here. The Egyptians were trading with the black people over here. It was a global black society. Global. And then once the white people come into the picture, we need to figure out where these aliens came from. But once the white people come into the picture, we start to see that everything starts to fall apart. They start to stake their claim on all of history, like they were the ones who did everything. To the victor goes the spoils. But when the white people come into the picture, then they round up all the Hebrew Israelites over there in Africa and bring them over here during the transatlantic slave trade. And now they are mixed in with the American Indian. And now, like, you know, so two of those things can be true at the same time. I'm not saying that theory is true. That's not even a theory that I got. I mean, it's kind of close to my theory, but that's not my theory. But I'm just putting something together, you know what I mean? And everything could be true at the same time. You motherfuckers are so stupid that you're like, no, if you're a Hebrew Israelite, there's no way you can have any native DNA, so y'all are fighting. If I'm Pan-African and I were brought over here in slavery, there's no reason why we can have... That's why I like foundational Black American, because it's just all of us. It's just all of us in a group. Whether you're Pan-African, whether you're a Hebrew Israelite, it doesn't matter. We're all just foundational Black Americans. We're not all just foundational Black Americans, but we're all in that same group together. And that's what that does. So you're allowed to have your own beliefs. We don't have to fight each other. Just like in the clip about the man, the rich guy who had the soap company. He was getting into it with the civil rights people over differences of opinion. It's like, bro, we can have a difference in opinion. As long as your opinion ain't trying to take away my rights or kill me, we can have a difference in opinion. And we
Ever since I found out Harriet Tubman is not a real person, it fucked me up. Not gonna lie.
I'm about to show y'all some very real records involving Harriet Tubman.
Because her real name is Araminta Ross. And she was a spy for the United States government. Her real name, Araminta, is not connected to the Harriet Tubman. And they want us to look up and idolize these people. Oh, well, they look just like me, so I must look up to them. Stop that shit immediately.
My name is Walt. I'm the founder of the Bristol English Project, a nonprofit that helps descendants of American chattel slavery with our genealogy. Keep it a being with y'all. The fact that we have to defend Harriet Tubman's existence in 2025 with things like the Boston Herald, May 31st, 1905, with me showing that she attended Colonel Shaw's funeral.
Because if they're talking about it, raving about this person's bravery, don't fucking trust it. They probably fucked over Black...
Not only do we have access to letters that she wrote, but also letters between other abolitionists that mentioned her.
When you start lying about history to fit your narrative, that to me automatically should be a war.
We're going to jump over the newspapers now because people are going to argue the military records due to them being government, and then they only think white abolitionists exist, so that conversation is going to halt there. Let's look at the New York Age, New York City, August 3rd, 1911. Conference held in Brooklyn last week. New York women give Harriet Tubman financial aid. That is another conversation that we will have in a separate video. Rutland Daily Herald, March 29th, 1913. Moses of Negroes is dead. Harriet Tubman Davis, most remarkable woman of race. The Baltimore Sun, March 13th, 1913. The Sun, from the place so nice they had to name it twice, May 2nd, 1909. Y'all seriously think a whole country wrote about a fictional character for decades? I honestly believe some people would take that route. We know with historical context, Harriet Tubman led a lot of Black people to where? Canada. And you can see right here, she has some letters at the post office out there. Kingston, Ontario, Canada, May 15th, 1897. Miss Harriet Tubman once called the Moses of her people, and for whose head slave owners offered a reward of 40 bands, is in Boston. And I also think people who make claims like this don't realize the entire world has had its eyes on the U.S. for a very long time.
Yeah, if they were published in American history and it was Black history, they were spies, bro. They've been trafficking people. Underground. It's all underground.
New day, new clothes on the same shit, though. That kind of anti-intellectual talking point, that kind of thinking leads to things like this.
Finally, someone's talking about it, because I just was saying this the other day to someone. Hear me out. That shit does not make any sense. Why would you be taking slaves underground in tunnels?
Yeah, she said that. A lot of people believe that Harriet Tubman created the Underground Railroad, was the only person on the Underground Railroad. What am I talking about? People talking about Harriet Tubman didn't even exist. Oh, so y'all definitely don't know who William Still is, right? As it says, most historians, including my Stills Underground Railroad, published out in Philly in 1872, the most primary source available on the subject. If you want to read this primary source for yourself, Project Gutenberg has the book for free. And if you don't want to read through all of this, I don't understand why you wouldn't want to read this, but there's also the McGowan Index of William Stills Underground Railroad. You can download the Excel file right there. And right here, you can see everything, like enslaved people who ran away in chains, their age, their color, ran away, where they ran away from, the person that they ran away with, how they got away. You don't have to look hard to find Harriet Tubman in his book or on this list. I also added brand new resources, and some I'm going to add after this video, which involves Canada. But you don't think HBCUs Harriet Tubman in any form or fashion? Not a single one. I swear that y'all are trying so goddamn hard to be different. You're sounding just like...
You see, the reason I like to look backwards when everyone else looks forwards is because I think there's little tiny secrets in our history that have changed our entire human perspective.
And I already heard you can't trust the sources from these institutions. What about black folks? You don't trust the black folks that lived during that time either? A lot of the resources I showed y'all today are available for free in my database of resources. It requires people to read. It requires people to do actual resources, because in an age of information where this exists, the fact that we are still defending Harriet Tubman's existence, not even still, this is the first time I ever had to do this, is ridiculous. Go love yourself and donate to the Bristol English Project.
Because if the government is hiring these actors, pretending to do good in the community, and they're actually doing harm.
Instead of looking at it like there's an agent, the government ain't paying nobody to be retarded. I mean, people are just stupid. You know what I mean? They don't have to pay people to create distractions or do any of these things, because they're just going to do it anyway. But instead of looking at it like that, you should be looking at it as an opportunity to teach, to explain, to break it down, not just to the person who's saying that Harriet Tubman is not real, but to the people who's listening. You know what I mean? Give her viewers the opposite side of it. And that's what we try to do here. So I don't know if Harriet Tubman is real or fake. I'm going to lean to the side of real because I have no evidence to prove that she's fake, and I've heard that she's real. You know what I mean? And that's what I mean by like looking at white man sources. It's not all wrong. You know what I mean? We can't look at it like, well, everything they told us is just a fucking lie. That would be impossible. You know what I mean? But I do think they spun the truth. They did twist some narratives. They did do some things. You know what I mean? And I just think if I wouldn't be the person that should be sitting here saying, you know, fuck Harriet Tubman, she wasn't real, and I didn't do any real research on it, and come to find out she was real, and I'm just disrespecting one of our black leader in history, you know what I mean, who has done great things. Probably could have saved one of my family members or saved somebody in my family, you know what I mean, and I'm just disrespecting her. So I encourage everybody to do your research, really look into these things. And for the other side of the fence, his side, I would say, did you look into anything she's saying? I know the video you had, she didn't give any proof. Well, I don't know if she gave proof the way he clipped it up, but I would rather see you respond to the proof than respond to her. You know what I mean? What proof does she have? And look at her proof and look at, because that's what I feel like we're missing. We immediately go to this defensive mode where we got to defend our ideals instead of looking at it as we're just trying to get to the truth. So I could be wrong. You could be wrong. Let's figure out who's right or wrong. Let's sit down and come to an understanding. So I got a video on Harriet Tubman coming soon. I'll do that one, and we can look at both perspectives on Harriet Tubman, real or fake, and come to our own conclusion, break down the evidence, and really see. But it's been your boy Hendo. Like, comment, subscribe. And subscribe for them videos coming up. Hit that bell. You know what I mean? Make sure that you see all notifications. You know what I mean? Because they be on that bullshit. Hype this video up if you can. Comment section on your phone. Swipe it over. Hit that hype button. We out.